are you going to remove the racism from Cracker Barrel?
Took the racism away from Cracker Barrel. What are they doing? It used to be so plantation core. Fruitiger Underground Metro. Knowing while I was in there, my privilege was increased. It made the food taste better. Maybe you want to buy a candle or a box of pancake mix. Maybe a person or two. Now the food's just going to taste like it was made by my mom and not by George Washington.
Why is Cracker Barrel changing its logo back? What's Cracker Barrel's plans?
They took Grandma's porch. They give it an airport Chili's facelift. No checkerboards, no quilts, no haunted rocking chair that whispers Reagan, just the cold, laminated soul of a place that no longer knows cornbread. This isn't modernization, it's erasure and flannel. In college, I worked at Cracker Barrel in Tallahassee. I even gave my life to Christ in their parking lot. Their logo was iconic, and their unique restaurants were a fixture of American culture. No one asked for this woke rebrand. It's time to make Cracker Barrel great again. Cracker Barrel has committed the cardinal sin. And you might be wondering, what did Cracker Barrel do to make everyone so mad? Did they start serving cooked baby on the menu? Is there slop-only options available? No, instead Cracker Barrel committed the sin of minimalism, deciding to opt out of their more country, rustic aesthetic and opt into a more southern, modern, suburban home aesthetic. And while this may not seem like a massive issue, unfortunately, it has become a massive issue. The president even decided to give his 2 cents in on the whole situation. Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo, admit a mistake based on customer response, the ultimate poll, and manage the company better than ever before. And this controversy, even though it seems like something made for Twitter debates, became a actual massive thing for the company, with the company losing over $100 million in value. And those losses even dipped down to $200 million. Cracker Barrel loses almost $100 million in value as stock plunges after new logo release. Shares of Cracker Barrel fell $4.22 or 7.2% to $54.80, shedding $94 million in market value. The stock had dipped to a low of $50.27 earlier in the day, representing a loss of almost $200 million. And today we will be discussing this entire mess, this entire situation, because it seems like a lot of people are upset about corporate minimalism, but that is not the only factor in this equation. Twitter found out that the CEO of Cracker Barrel is currently a woman, and the floodgates broke absolutely loose. So first, let's just get into what exactly happened here with this rebrand, and then we'll start looking at some of the internet response to this rebrand, because I think this situation is so much bigger than it seems. It's a microcosm of what I'm going to call the new cancel culture that we're seeing develop, the conflict about the modernization and soul-sucking of every corporation. Also, it really does show how much corporations and business entities play into our psyche, how much they impact us. People are legitimately raging mad over this. We're really connected to these corporations because what else do we have? I mean, third spaces are gone. Where else are we going to go except a place where we can patronize and spend our money? But before we get into all that, like every YouTuber's come before me, I am going to ask you to like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think about the situation, whether it's nothing, whether you think it's ridiculous. I'm not going to expose all of my thoughts in one moment here, but I really do feel like this is a nothing burger situation, and it also just shows that consumers do have the power to actually make companies change things. And unfortunately, people seem to be using this power for evil instead of good, complaining about the woke changes that are happening, when I think there are other corporations that could use, a little bit of a kick in the behind to stop doing horrific things. Maybe the fact that these health insurance companies are repeatedly denying claims to people who legitimately need the care to survive, and we're sitting here complaining about Cracker Barrel. But before we get too far into it, let's go way back to August 20th, the day that this rebrand was announced officially by Cracker Barrel and it would officially start to roll out. Cracker Barrel has officially updated their logo for the first time in 47 years. The original logo was this more unique logo featuring the man, the barrel, and the K that just wraps around the entire logo. The new logo looks basic, sleek. I mean, of course, it still has the 2 colors, which, I mean, why would they get rid of those? And you can immediately see that the internet response is negative. This is officially the worst logo redesign of all time. Another one falls victim. We got shape. They removed both the cracker and the barrel. Can we stop this minimalism? Everything looks so bland now. And we see people comparing things like these logos to the simplification of a lot of other things in modern life, like railings, doors, architecture. And it wouldn't just be on Twitter where people were angry about this. I found a collection of TikToks of people who seem to be really engaged and interested in this whole Cracker Barrel fiasco.
I'm in a Cracker Barrel right now, like a crazy person, because I saw they were rebranding.
We had people who were literally shedding actual tears over this. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, I do really think the situation goes to show how much of our personalities, of our lives, of what we consider to be nostalgic, are absolutely being controlled by major mega corporations that want to drain more money out of us. So much of our lives are controlled by these corporations. So much of what we consider nostalgic are controlled by these corporations. And it is really crazy when you think about it on that base level, because people are actually crying over Cracker Barrel changing their logo and be adopting a slightly more modern interior. Shedding actual tears. And the comments are not on her side. Imagine if people got this emotional over the way we're losing rights. Crashing out over Jim Crow. Applebee's is insane. I thought this was satire at first, but she's legitimately serious. Imagine if people got this emotional about Palestine and the Palestinian people losing literally their land. And this also goes back to another point. The fact that we are being constantly fed these outrage cycles from Twitter influencers whose check is basically defined on how much they can rage bait the internet, I think has had such a negative impact on overall public discourse. It has been broken, it has been destroyed. It seems to be like these constant battles about what is woke and what is not woke. And there's no definition of woke. There is literally like no definition of woke. You can't argue with these people. I remember on my video that I made about the Gen Z stare, kind of covering how employees are being mistreated, I saw a comment, and I'm not going to directly call it out, but they were, oh, why don't y'all just do your job? I'm not woke enough for this. And it's like, okay, so advocating for workers to be treated fairly or kindly is woke now? And what can I say to that? What could I say to that person to make them understand that it is actually deeper than this? And it goes back again to anti-intellectualism, the idea that, oh, nothing's that deep. You guys are just bothered over stuff that doesn't really matter. You guys are looking way too deep into this stuff. And it's like, well, somebody's got to look deep into stuff, or else we're just going to have these simplistic, basic explanations for everything. Here's another TikTok that I saw that just really gagged me, because it really, again, goes to show how much these corporations have a grip over us. Why are we living our entire lives at a Cracker Barrel? Cracker Barrel holds so many memories. October 21, engagement. Married. First baby. Baby number 2. And I will give these people the benefit of the doubt that they weren't actually sitting here, crying or complaining about it like too much. But it is still kind of insane that we are having our major life events in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel restaurant. And just one last TikTok before we get further into the depths of the Cracker Barrel discourse is this TikTok, which I'm going to show you, that shows that servers and workers at Cracker Barrel are legitimately suffering because of this change. Literally just straight up empty dining rooms. And, if you don't really know what Cracker Barrel is or what it was like before the rebrand, I think I know I said last TikTok was the last TikTok, but this one, I saw it again and I just said, this is kind of what the vibe of Cracker Barrel was giving before.
You're never really lonely, because there will always be a white person all up in your business.
Like, why is he at the table like it's their birthday and he's like Chuck E. Cheese or something? Like, he's the mascot. He's just coming out to say hello. And the fact that they're not even like interacting with him, the fact that she's just still dancing and he's still there is killing me. And just to give context on like what this interior that everybody was so upset about looked like, here's kind of an example.
Best idea I ever had in my entire life. That's the worst idea you ever had in your entire life.
Like, it's literally, literally just giving like this vibe, suburban farmhouse type vibe. And again, just more of the responses. It looks like when Mr. Krabs had his house painted white. Why do companies ruin their own stuff? I loved it and now I don't want to go. It looks lifeless. Who wants to do that? Nope, CEO is blind to what American families want. And I think that last comment is a perfect segue into what the conversation ended up being, which was more so focused on the CEO and about what she had going on. There's been countless other corporate rebrands, and I feel like no one has ever called out the CEO like this or ever made it point to focus on the CEO. Now, to be fair, she said, quote, "People like what we're doing." Julie Fest-Messino told GMA on Tuesday, "The number one question I got asked was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? And how do I get on the list? The buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team." And now I do think a lot of this rebrand and a lot of the reason behind this is because Cracker Barrel did seem to be, like, part of me thinks it's kind of a Hail Mary type of situation where Cracker Barrel didn't seem to be doing super well, like financially, even before this situation. Just to go back to the CBS article, while the company had reported higher revenues, like 3.5 from 3.4 billion, the income fell down to 40 million, down from 99 million just a few years prior. So part of me thinks that this was I don't know, they thought they could tap into a younger audience. They thought they could tap into a more youthful or Gen Z audience for some reason. But I feel like, again, me personally, and this just might be me, as someone who lives in the South and who has been to a Cracker Barrel before, the only reason I go there is when a member of my family chooses it, or when, like, you know, when I'm with like my parents or family members and they choose a restaurant. I'm not specifically going to be like, oh yeah, I want to go to Cracker Barrel, especially when there's other breakfast restaurants where I feel like I won't have to endure the type of situation that we saw in that video a few minutes back. Like, I personally think that is more so what's playing into their decline, especially with younger consumers. But there are a lot of Gen Z who may be more Southern, who may be more open to this type of aesthetic or like that type of aesthetic. But I do think the fundamental mistake, was thinking that their core audience would like this rebrand. But of course, they could have never, ever estimated how bad the backlash would be, how much the Twitter fingers would go off. Just for example, here's one account showing the new interior, and the replies under this are absolutely unhinged. No, this is what they took from us. You see them bringing up the Sydney Sweeney drama and trying to compare the new logo to Lizzo, which is weird, and I do have a whole tangent about this. Never forget what they took from us. They took Grandma's porch. They give it an airport Chili's facelift. No checkerboards, no quilts, no haunted rocking chair that whispers Reagan, just the cold laminated soul of a place that no longer knows cornbread. This isn't modernization, it's erasure and flannel. Someone wrote basically like a literal poem about this. Someone took their time to type that for 5 minutes. Someone saying this, which is really disgusting to me, stop messing up what isn't broken trying to compare Elliot Page's transition to Cracker Barrel's logo change. That's not Cracker Barrel, it's a liberal white woman destroying an iconic Southern home cooking restaurant chain. On Twitter, this debate about minimalism and, the lack of personality, the lack of character was taken to its height and, of course, turned into a political argument. People are claiming that Cracker Barrel went woke somehow by attempting this modern rebrand, and I find that really interesting because, while a lot of people are dogging on the CEO, and listen, not a number one CEO defender, not by any means. I'm sure the company could probably pay their workers better as well and could actually treat them better as well. But again, her getting the brunt of this controversy, her getting the brunt of this attack, I could see maybe because she made it more public going on GMA. But again, I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of the case is people just coming at her specifically because the McDonald's rebrand happened. I did not hear this much yelling and noise about it being woke or about the CEO. There was one example I could see why McDonald's looks sleek and boring now. And the CEO of McDonald's, Chris Kempinski, has been CEO since 2019, so he likely oversaw this rebrand. I didn't see a lick of people on Twitter talking about this being a woke rebrand or something that was ruined. I also think that seeing those tweets about people like Lizzo, seeing those tweets for some reason bringing up Elliot Page into the situation, just so weird. It's a really mask off moment to the utter cruelty that a lot of the people who are behind this are showing. It's truly not about Cracker Barrel. It's truly not about modernization for them. It seems to be another excuse to just be awful and rude and nasty to people, like the CEO of Cracker Barrel. Because according to these people, any move towards modernization is simply a woke thing, which I personally don't see. I see this as an attempt to rebrand, an attempt to change that failed, that flopped, of course, and I don't like the continued draining of personality from things, but I think you can have that opinion without being utterly nasty and utterly disgusting to people. And just to address this entire idea, don't mess with whatever didn't need to be changed. I don't think Elliot Page transitioned for you people to bully him. I don't think he was considering how 40-year-old men on Twitter considered him. You know what I mean? Like, I think he transitioned because he felt like he had to, and because he was suffering before. You know what I mean? Like, this idea that people have to fit in the mold, that these people have to be attractive to you or else you can be utterly disgusting and utterly angry at them is just so weird to me. I've personally had my run-in with this type of behavior and this type of, I don't know, this nasty crowd when I made a video covering, basically, if you don't know, Nick Mertz went viral a few years back for several tweets that were very, I think, homophobic, very nasty, where he again insinuated that all people in the community were pedophiles or were trying to recruit people. This has been something that has been done repeatedly over and over again. And in that video, I went back to that and I called that out. And I said, hey, this is the same rhetoric that has been used for years and years and years. And it is demonstrably not true. So that reached the wrong audience. I was a newer creator at the time. And the comments were absolutely awful. Unfortunately, they're all gone now, but I remember a few of them going something like this. What gender are you? What are you even talking about? How dare you? Like, just the amount of nastiness that I saw. And I find it really interesting that these people are trying to get people to join their movement, are trying to get people to see things the way that they want them to see them. Like, for all they know, I could have maybe been someone with a conservative bent. I'm obviously not. But them taking the fact that I'm not what they expected me to be stereotypically, and them running with that fact. And yet, even if I was what they want me to be, what they expected from me stereotypically, they would have still been racist towards me. So it's like, there is this tangent of people who actually hold these very racist beliefs, who actually hold these very homophobic and bigoted beliefs, who are co-opting this movement against wokeness and turning it into something that is, well, I guess it's already been that from the beginning, but making it even more racist than it already is. And another concern that I've seen throughout this whole discourse about Cracker Barrel is the idea that people are so upset about them getting rid of the man, getting rid of Uncle Herschel, who is apparently the character. Apology not accepted, Cracker Barrel. Uncle Herschel's not coming back. Uncle Herschel deserved better. And a lot of this fear and a lot of this anger, I think, can be linked to something called the Great Replacement Theory. A lot of people have been subscribing this conspiracy, and I think it's one of the main drivers behind this anti-woke ideology. This PBS article explained it really well. Quote, what is Great Replacement Theory and how does it fuel racist violence? It explains that, simply put, the conspiracy says there's a plot to diminish the influence of white people. Believers say the goal is being achieved both through the immigration of non-white people into societies that have been largely dominated by white people, as well as through simple demographics. And if you've unfortunately been on Twitter and seen the type of political discourse that's going on, a lot of it goes back to this fear of white people being replaced. I even recently saw a tweet by the owner of the website, Elon Musk, showing a map of birth rates around the world. He tweeted this yesterday, the state of global fertility. And specifically, this map shows the fertility rate is very high in places like Africa, some parts of Central Asia. And then, of course, we see something else. Someone posting a map showing the average IQ by country.
I did just want to clarify and state that while there are differences between IQ noted in like studies and that type of thing, it doesn't really account for things like socioeconomic status. A big aspect of why IQs may seem lower in certain areas is because people don't have access to food, don't have access to education, and food is so critical in development, especially when you're really like young. So that food being denied to people not having access to that food has a real impact on things like IQ scores. The whole system of IQ has also been put into question. So I didn't just want to show this graph without offering that additional context, because I think it's very important here, and I think it's been deliberately left out in a way to kind of perpetuate hate and racism.
And of course, the racism down below in these comments is absolutely outrageous. Trying to basically blame Africans for their financial troubles, when not only have they been systemically colonized, denied access to resources that they basically should own, continuing to suffer under the boot of neo-colonialism, in which corporations and other countries will basically hold things over their head for their resources. But I bring this tweet up because I really think it's a mask-off moment. A lot of the people who are against this Cracker Barrel thing, specifically the people who are calling it woke, because there are people who actually think that the loss of personality here is the more important issue, which, I get that. But the people who are specifically calling this a woke thing are more so inclined to support this type of rhetoric from Musk, saying that, oh, this is just another moment of erasure. They're taking our Cracker Barrel. We can't have anything anymore. And I think a lot of this is truly rooted in the state of things like Twitter, and even how things like this are being bolstered by people like the president. Of course, it's going to be a news story if the president is talking about it. So the president talking about, the City Sweeney jeans, the president talking about the Cracker Barrel rebrand, I think are very convenient distractions from what are actually impacting us. And it's also a way to get people very outraged, to get people very angry over something that, in my opinion, specifically talking about the people who are calling this a woke rebrand, I think that this is something that is not super important. What this really showed to me overall is that people do have the power to boycott, that people do have the power to actually change corporate decisions. But unfortunately, instead of doing this for companies like United Healthcare, who continue to, and of course that would be way more difficult, there's a lot of nuance there, right? But even public pressure campaigns against these type of companies would have massive impacts on their profitability, on their stock. Like, we basically prove that negative publicity and negative attention are truly enough to get a corporation to change course. And instead of using this for good, we're using this for evil. Now, just to round out my thoughts on this entire topic, I had one more tweet that I had to show you from Byron Donald, someone who's running for governor in Florida, and someone who's currently a representative, just to show you how far the Twitter discourse rabbit hole has gone. In college, I worked at Cracker Barrel in Tallahassee. I even gave my life to Christ in their parking lot. Their logo was iconic, and their unique restaurants were a fixture of American culture. No one asked for this woke rebrand. It's time to make Cracker Barrel great again. That is the level of discourse we've gotten to. Now, just to round out my thoughts and what I think is actually happening here instead of this woke rebrand, let's look at a few TikToks that explain the minimalism epidemic and how personality is being drained out of everything in order to make more profit.
So this, by the way, is all because of Wall Street. This is all because of the stock market, because of investors, private equity, and the demand to get more value to shareholders. This has nothing to do with wokeness or DEI, you stupid sleeping babies. Okay? I'm going to explain this to you. McDonald's.
Well, he was a lot less nice than I was about it, but yeah.
The way McDonald's is structured is McDonald's owns the land underneath this building. They own the land. They're the biggest landholders in the United States when it comes to commercial properties. The franchisees then rent the building on top of them. And you know what happens? Sometimes McDonald's go out of business. And when McDonald's goes out of business, they want to put a different business in there and they want to sell the land underneath it. Well, guess what? When you have a building that can only be a McDonald's or can only be a Pizza Hut or can only be a Cracker Barrel or only be a Taco Bell, guess what? It's harder to sell those businesses. So every business has slowly been turning into a gray or beige box because you know what happens when you put a vape store inside of an old Pizza Hut? We all call it, oh, the vape store inside of the old Pizza Hut.
Now, this is something that I didn't even really think about it, but it does totally make sense because my original thought was that it was just the fact that they were trying to not have to dish out money on like those extra decor things, not have to dish out money on the extra type of on actually having to design a cohesive store. And that is probably part of the equation, but this, I think, makes a lot more sense as it pertains to why these companies have decided to totally erase personality from everything.
Now, in the future, they'll just pull the Pizza Hut sign off and you'll go, I think that might have used to be a Starbucks. I don't remember. I don't know. But all the buildings used to look like this. It's also easier to do upkeep on it. They all have the same dumb awning with these weird little latches attached to them. They don't have to have the special McDonald's only custom ordered roof or the special Pizza Hut red shingle or making sure that they have to do this special lighting underneath Cracker Barrel or whatever was going on with Taco Bell back in the day. They're all buying from the same company. They're all using the same parts. That brings down their cost. They're not building play places anymore. It's not because of wokeness. It's not because, oh, gay people, no. It's because insurance for a play place costs more than just having a fucking McDonald's.
It truly just shows how profit-based everything has become and also just how much is lost in these things because unfortunately a lot of our personality, a lot of our lives are based on, corporate interest. For example, oh, I love Beanie Babies. Oh, I love Labubu's. Well, all of those are products. A lot of our personality, a lot of our livelihood, a lot of our life is based off of what product we like, what product we find to be the most interesting to us. As these products and places that people really find attachment to are losing their color, are losing their life, we're slowly becoming a grayer world. I really do feel for the generation that is having to grow up without play places, the generation that is having to basically grow up on things like Roblox, grow up on things like iPads being shoved in their face, because they're not really able to, have a day where they go up to McDonald's for a snack and their family lets them play in the play place. I remember that. Those were really happy memories. So this draining of color, this loss of personality is something that I think is really going to have an impact in the future. But regardless, that's all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Location change, if you didn't notice. We'll try to be decorating more, but for now, this is where we are. So, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.